Okay, so some type of success. Definitely a success. I'm not quite sure why I need to do what I'm doing, but it does work. So I had proved to myself last time that the pulse from the PC write, or PC increment, I'm sorry, the PC increment, when we put it into the 747 to divide it by 2, then everything seemed to be okay, but then it was going to be half as slow. It wasn't going to count correctly. It's only going to count every other instruction instead of every instruction. And I thought, okay, I'll put in some other circuitry to do some other things. And then it dawned on me, if I'm dividing it by 2, all I need to do is reprogram my microcode to, instead of incrementing the program counter once per microcode, increment it twice per microcode, and then it will catch back up to the right speed. So the way the program is right now, it's read the program counter, write to the I/O, then increment the program counter, and then increment the program counter again, and then no op, no op, no op, no op. So it just does 2 increments instead of 1 increment, and I'm dividing it by 2 to square it up. And for whatever reason, these little counter chips, the 163 chips, seem to need a square wave, so I'm giving it a square wave now. I am eating up an extra instruction of microcode, but I have a lot of those now because I have 16 per instruction. So it's a bit of a kludge, but it is working. I'll figure out why later and maybe clean it up. But at least now I have a working system. So I am incrementing the program counter. Let me zoom in. I think you can see that now. Let me turn off this light here. There we go, that's better. So you can see we are incrementing the program counter by 1s instead of by 2s. That's good. So the program then reads that, puts it onto the bus, and then writes it to the I/O device. So you can see it counting here, goes up to FF and back to 0, and it's working. Yay! So, wow, that took a while. I need to figure out why I need to do what I'm doing, and if there's another workaround that's a little bit easier with the circuitry that I have. Certainly I could, add more circuitry to fix this up, but it should be there's probably a clever way I just haven't thought of yet to make these counters count correctly. They seem to want to have a square wave, which I don't quite understand, but that is what it is. I was also thinking of using the 747, instead of a D-type latch, use it as an SR latch, a set reset latch. Use the program counter increment signal to do the set, and then use the no op instruction to do the reset. So it would only get set once and then get reset by the next no op. That's kind of doing the same thing. I'm using 2 instructions to do the same function, so maybe it's not all that clever, but maybe I could hook it in so it automatically clears itself with some other signal someplace else. But anyway, I'm very happy. We now have a working system. So you can see it counting great, and it looks like everything is working good. Unfortunately, in the process of debugging this, I plugged in my I/O backwards. I plugged it in upside down and burned up this little chip here. So I smelled smoke and I couldn't figure out what was that. Anyway, so I got to build another one of these, or I think it's easier just to build up a new board instead of trying to remove this chip and put another chip on here. It's better just to surface mount the whole thing new again. I'll probably desolder the dip switch to reuse that. Anyway, small casualty for a win. But anyway, good. So now that we have a system that seems to be able to increment the program counter, that was the big key. So now that I can increment the program counter, that means that I can then write the program counter to the RAM address and increment the RAM address. So now I can have multiple instructions. I can do a RAM write to the instruction thing, and I can put multiple instructions into the microcode machine now. So I'm able to go to the next step. This was a real breakthrough, and maybe I'll just build up a little circuit with this on it and just kind of piggyback it on here for now, just to have a working system and worry about other things later. As long as it's working, I can go to the next step, and the next step would be to have the ROM. Can you see that? Have the ROM RAM board installed, and see if I can't do a PC program counter write to the RAM address, so we can cycle through RAM. We'll give that a try. Maybe what we'll just do is we'll increment the program counter, send that to the address register, read the context of RAM, and put that onto our display device, and just cycle through RAM to see if there's any kind of like random data in the RAM. That might be kind of fun to do. Anyway, success! Yay!